Hello comrades, this is your favorite Russian talking, and this is gonna be a Grrr Monday, kind of a rant review about majority of MMOs out there. It's gonna be probably a long ass fucking video, so get ready for it, but I'll try to make it suggestive and very salty. So, let's start talking about a few MMOs that we're gonna describe. We're gonna talk about the Skyforge, Rift, Star Wars, World of Warcraft, WildStar, and Guild Wars 2. 6 MMOs in one video. So this is gonna be a kind of a treat, but I actually played every single MMO, but at least I would say 10 to 15 hours over the last month. So I'm gonna give you my perspective of every single MMO. Now, 10 to 15 hours, it's not much. I'm talking about, I also played those games for a long ass time before, so I'm gonna tell you the exact summation of my experience in PvP, but give it a moment. Every single MMO I think at least invested 100 hours of gameplay at the very least over last course of year and a half. So with that said, we're gonna talk about, first of all, what we're gonna discuss. We're gonna talk about the PvP system, the PvP class design, which is one of the most important things for me. What kind of PvP does the game have? Is it good or is it bad? Then we're gonna talk about the overall a feel of the game, grind versus no grind and stuff like that. So with that said, there's gonna be a lot of information thrown at us, so get ready, my friends. So Skyforge officially went from hero to zero in one patch, just like Death Knights. So what happened to the Skyforge is a huge pay to win event, followed by pay to win mechanics, followed by broken symbols and a stupidity of a stats beyond the comparison. But let's elaborate more on that. So from a Skyforge, you have your arenas, you have your battlegrounds. Fun as hell. One of the best MMO PvP experiences I ever had when I started playing MMO. The game had a tremendous potential, and then from just arena design itself, the first arena that they designed was amazing, the second one was pretty shit. Battlegrounds overall design was also pretty fucking terrible in Skyforge, but because there was lots of fighting going on, you didn't feel like it was a pretty bad design because you still enjoyed the game with that perspective. The game was very, very enjoyable and I loved playing every single second of it. Now, what happened is the recent patch. First of all, I'm going to talk about the Kath Ether slot system that required up to 1 million, I believe, up until the end, but in the beginning 500,000, 200,000 of credits to invest into the game. So what happened is very, very simple, my friends. The Kath Ether slot system is an abomination. You can purchase the credits via those Argent crystals, and those credits can be used to upgrade your toon. Sounds fair. Well, back in the day before the patch, nobody would invest anything in the Kath Ether slot system because it was really, really bad design. It was just a waste of stats. After that, it became legitimately one of the much better systems, but it was also very closely tied to actually credits instead of any other amount. Now, because each class is a credit constricted, there's a limited amount of how many credits you guys can get. Look in the cute camera. What happened is essentially that credit cap will prevent you to improve as much as you possibly can. So if I buy 30 million worth of credits, there is absolutely no way a free-to-play player can catch up to that. And once a free-to-play player will catch up to that, which will take about 40 weeks, almost a year, guess what? The other person will get those other 30 million credits that can be put elsewhere. So in that sense, it legitimately is a pay-to-win game, because the more money you spend, the stronger your character becomes, without and there's no way you can catch up to that, because by the time you catch up to them, the time it will take you to catch up to them, the other people who spend money, who bought shit, will be further. Before the patch, 25 rank temples, that's all it needed to be, and it would be possible to maximize them. Yes, it will take you maybe 2-3 months to catch up, but who gives a shit? It was legitimately a catch-up system. Catch-up. So with that said, one, pay to win. That and events were absolutely dog shit design. Right? A fucking insult to the intelligence. If I want to play pay to wins, I'll play fucking mobile games. No thank you. So with that said, what else is there in Skyforge that became terrible? The new patch, the symbols were absolutely atrocity. The PvP meta in Skyforge right now is the symbols, then the class, then the stats gear, and then the skill. Skill being absolutely the lowest common denominator. It is absolutely inconceivable. Now, granted, everybody can argue in every single MMO that comes, but to some greater or less extent. In Skyforge, however, he was very visible. So the symbol that you can pick up from a new patch can increase your dot damage by 30%. What happens is your ability would proc another dot that will do a lot of damage. Now if you dot somebody, your dots will be proccing that additional dot. So with that said, the additional dot can get up to 30% extra damage. So 30% of the class damage can be picked up from the symbol that is obtained outside. All it takes about 2 to 6 hours of grind, of pure trash grind, and that is not right. It's not right. I mean, I don't give a shit how many hours it takes. It shouldn't be in the game to begin with. So that's one of the biggest mishaps. Second was defense penetration. Defense penetration was a bad stat. Back, what happened in arenas, the meta was one support, either Alchemist or Lightbinder with the shields, and usually double DPS or whatever it is. The two outliers were in the last patch were basically Slayers and Knights. And what happened is Slayers did get nerfed, but defense penetration basically was supposed to be nerfing Knights, but instead what it did is actually buffed Knights, because now they have a much easier time to kill people with a defense penetration that bypasses the shields. It also made classes stronger that required the least amount of ways to put out their dots, like archers and warlocks. My archer will take 95% of somebody else's hit points of equivalent prestige level within just 2 seconds. All I need is right, left, right, left. Like literally, this is how much it's gonna take me to apply dots that will take 95% of somebody's HP. You ready for this? That's it. That's how much it's gonna take me. It is absolutely it was really bad design. So my Skyforge PvP experience was I would say legitimately 7.5 out of 10. If they would have nerfed Knight and Slayer for PvP, made the second arena map bigger, redesigned a little bit battlegrounds themselves, and made it so PvP players would actually get the best gear possible for PvP from PvP itself, the game would have been easily 8.5 to 9 out of 10. It could have been one of the best PvP experiences I ever had. But what they did is they completely destroyed it via pay-to-win events, pay-to-win patch, and a stupid asinine design choices on the stats and symbols. So, with that said, now, not to say that in Skyforge, if you want to max out your character, you have to raid every single week, you have to distortion every single week, which is a second version of a raid, you have to do anomalies, which is literally 2 to 6 hours of the most boring grind possible, where you lure the mobs in and you just AoE the shit out of them. Like, it's really that boring. Like, if you want to fall asleep, you'll do that. So you literally have to spend about 20 to 30 hours a week of just farming PvE shit just to be kept out on PvP. So with that said, all of that introductions and everything else, Skyforge PvP experience right now is literally 1 to 1.5 out of 10. The worst possible experience ever created. Bad, would not recommend anybody to play it. Now, with that said, let's move on to the next MMO version. So it's 8.5 minutes. I have 8 minutes and 50 seconds. We're gonna talk about actually Star Wars. The Star Wars, oh my god. Let's start orgasming a little bit, and I'm gonna tell you the good things and the bad things that they fucked up. So first of all, the Skyforge arena design, I would say it's a solid. It's actually pretty bad. I would say it's a 4 out of 10 to 5 out of 10. Arenas benefit the range classes the most, make the melee classes feel real miserable. There's a lot of platforms, ZYX, you know, where you can knock people off and everything else, and to get to the back to that platform is actually very difficult. Now imagine like what's a Nightgrant arena, I believe, or which arena has a huge bridge in World of Warcraft. Now imagine that bridge not having the middle platforms. So when the melee gets basically thrown off the bridge, he has to go all the way back to actually get somewhere. That's kind of the problem with the arena designs. Like there's 2 or 3 arenas that are very, very poorly designed. With that said, battleground designs are actually fun as hell. The announcer is awesome. The mechanics are fun. There's a lot of shit like you have to CC somebody to cap. And overall, the battleground designs, I would say about 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I don't want to put a, well actually, I'm sorry, I'm gonna correct. I'm gonna put them at actually 8.5 out of 10. And the reason why is because there's shit like, there's a lot of fun stuff. Like you can knock people off and stun them as the slime pulls down and they die. There's so many cool destructible, there's so many terrain interactions in some of the maps that you can do that actually will benefit you just freaking a lot. So with that said is utilizing the terrain, and every single class have a knockback, which I kinda think it's pretty bad, but at the same time having every single class knockback, they can always, all of them can utilize the terrain. So that's a lot of fun. So Battlegrounds is very, very fun. Another thing about the Star Wars that is actually very fun is the class design themselves. Oh boy. Arms Warrior has Whirlwind, Mortal Strike, Rend, Colossus Smash. I think they are bringing like Heroic Strike back or whatever it is, right? 4 to 5 abilities. My Sis Juggernaut, which is a warrior variation, has 13 buttons to rotate. Legitimately 13 buttons. He has like 2 regular slashes, then he has a Thunder Armor slash, then he has 2 really, really high damage dealing slashes, then he has a Channel slash, then he has 2 saber throws, 1 roar. He has 1 AoE, like which he knocks into the air. Then he has another AoE slash as well. Like 13 button rotation, and the rotation is like this convoluted. Like it's legitimately, you would go. There's no proper rotation. There's only a priority. Like say, do you have your Force Scream on the automatic crit? Awesome, utilize that. No, do a Ravage because Ravage does more damage than Shatter. But then like the rotation is extremely convoluted, so it's very, very like much harder to actually play in the beginning, and even harder to master it. But once you master, you literally can see the difference between a good Juggernaut and a shitty one. So with that said, it's awesome. And the sorcerers have a lot of abilities. Like every single class have fuck tons of abilities that they have to use in their rotations. Some are more complex than the other ones, but overall the class design, I would say, first of all, in Skyforge, I'm sorry I forgot to say it, Skyforge class design was, I would say, 6 out of 10, and then it went down to 2 out of 10. The Star Wars class design, I would go as high as 7.5 out of 10. A lot of abilities make sense, a lot of abilities actually have to be usable, a lot of shit that makes sense in general. For example, at the Death Knight, one of our main problems is to peel for our allies. While the Juggernaut does have tons, so what he can do is he can taunt the enemy players, to the point where if they attack anybody else besides the Juggernaut, they will do 30% less damage. The abilities are easily 26-30 keybinds that you have to press, but as you master your class and as you go along, you literally will see a huge improvement in your performance, which is awesome. Where did the Star Wars fucked up? Well, a couple major things. I'm gonna talk about the gear grind really quickly. The gear grind in Star Wars is very simple. To get the honor gear, by the time you hit the max level, if you occasionally do war zones, you'll get the max gear possible. To get a starting honor gear possible. But to get the max gear possible, it will take you like basically, according to my calculations, about on average I would say 250 to maybe 300 war zones or arena matches. That's quite a lot, but for the whole season it's not much. There's no stupid fucking cap that you have to every single week log in to prolong your caps or anything else like that. You just get it right away and that's it. Who cares? So maybe level up your alt or do whatever it is. Where did the servers fucked up? Well, they had a Warhammer servers. What that means is that all arenas and all battlegrounds rated has to be on one server. So what happens when the game kind of died down a little bit, lost its hype, and I know they're coming up with the expansion that will increase their hype level, but what happens when the game doesn't have a lot of people queuing at the same time for arenas? And to top it off, they can do its only per server basis. Guess what? The arenas barely pop. Now, to get the war zones, to get the battlegrounds, maybe even the rated battlegrounds, like that, easy as shit. To get a solo queue arenas, there's a rated skirmishes in that game. To get a rated skirmishes is also relatively easy. But to get a 4v4 pre-made, like a ranked arena team going, almost impossible. So with that said, they fucked up on the servers, and that is a huge fuck up, my friends. It's almost as if like every single MMO has something that they did that fucked up the class. Like this, like it's just inconceivable. Like the MMO could be doing really good, and then they will make one critical mistake. And for basically Star Wars, that's their biggest critical mistake. My PvP experience with Skyforge, with all the class design choices and all the storyline choices, was just awesome to level and everything else. PvP Star Wars experience with Star Wars, I would say that it's roughly a solid, I would say 7 out of 10. Legitimately 7 out of 10. In fact, I had more fun playing Skyforge before the patch than Star Wars, but Star Wars became definitely greater. Next we'll move on to, my friends, is WildStar. I'll do the WoW the latest. So now we're at 16 minutes and 22 seconds. So next one we have is WildStar. WildStar, I think that overall there is a rated arenas, it's cross servers as far as I understand, there is a battleground, rated battlegrounds. Now they finally made it that PvP gear is the best for PvP, which wasn't the case for a long time. Well, yes. The classes are correct, they were worked on the balance, which is awesome, and the game does feel actually very not skill dependent, but an experienced MMO player can rape shit up. Like, I hit level 6 on my warrior. The first war zone I entered, I topped the fucking damage. As a warrior who actually a sleeper class and should be doing way more damage after 20, but not before. So with that said, yeah, it kind of made me feel really good. The only thing I would say about the war zones designs in WildStar are also actually legitimately very well done. It's not the level of creativity of the Star Wars, but I would say there would be a solid 6.5 to 7 experience. Solid, not the greatest. The only thing I would say about the Skyforge, it does feel a little bit too much AoE spamish grindish, too much skill shots, to the point where it's kind of diminishing out of your enjoyment a lot of bugs. But the biggest unenjoyable right now about WildStar is their fucking servers, man. To get the servers, I would queue for Battleground. The queue would pop, I would get teleported back to my capital for no reason whatsoever. I would DC, go back, get a deserved debuff. Like, so many bad server problems. That's absolutely unbelievable, to the point where it does hurt your enjoyment quite a lot. So with the with the WildStar, I didn't get the max level. The max level I got was level 40 warrior, and so far I did had a lot of fun on it, up until the point when and now that the PvP gear is the best for PvP, I think that the WildStar, with going free to play, has a decent potential. Now, I'm gonna say that it's not gonna be the best PvP experience possible. While it does have a really good design in terms of abilities, offensive, utilities, and stuff like that, and you can configure and you have freedom to figure out your class no matter what you want to do. The fact of the matter is the combat itself is not the most enjoyable for PvP. Just a sheer amount of the AoEs. That's my partake. But my experience with the WildStar right now, I would say, is probably a good solid 6.5 out of 10. So, right below the Star Wars, but pretty decent. Rift. Oh my god. Poor Rift. Class design. One of the best. Easily. Awesome rotation, the creativity of the classes, it's unbelievable. Each class have a unique, most of the classes have a unique, authentic feel to them. My Reaver, which is a DPS class, like a Death Knight variation of a class, has 2 different Soul Reapers, 2 different Scourge Strikes. All of them do shadow damage, all of them do death damage. It's not like in freaking World of Warcraft where the Scourge Strike has to do a physical damage for whatever reasons why. No. It feels everything. Class design feels really good. However, they did fuck up on the class balance to the point where some classes are purely much better than the other classes. Another problem with the freaking Rift is melee. Being a melee with a bunch of ranged feels miserable. By the way, Star Wars have the same problem. It's really, really, really bad. So with that said, yes, I do wish they would have something going there, to be honest. But overall, the class design is amazing. The problem was Rift. No rated PvP whatsoever. It's like, hey, come up with some kind of infrastructure. You already have a great class design. Balance it out a little bit. Make people get PvP gear again from PvP only. The best for PvP. Do that. And all of a sudden, you're gonna have a very, very solid rated game, rated arena and Warzone game possible. Nope. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. We can make a couple more millions of dollars, but we don't want to do it. The funniest thing is if Rift is essentially like would actually make some PvP PvE tournaments, get their shit on the Twitch a little bit more, they would have a very solid gameplay experience, but they didn't. So, hey Fishy, 1 second guys. Fish! Somebody at the door. Sorry guys, in the middle of the vlog somebody decided to ring the doorbell. So, that's where the Rift kind of fucked up. And, yeah. They could have, I don't know what prevents them from actually doing that, but they didn't. So, overall, with the Rift, class design, I would put them at about 8. 8.5. A bit better than Star Wars. War zones, the Warfronts, and their battlegrounds. There's no arenas in Rift. Warfront's design itself, it's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. On the level of Star Wars. While there is not like a terrain that kills people and shit like that, the pure ideology of the war zones is awesome. They made it so it's not a fucking Ashton of a fail, where the Ashton was a terrible, where you literally had to do Zerg versus Zerg. In there, I would see only one map that is more Zerg versus Zerg, but even then, the sneaky character can make a huge difference. Map control and the map design for Rift was by far the best experience I ever had. So, but with that said, the PP, because the best gear is obtainable only from PvE in Rift, and it takes forever to get it, to the point where the new players should not be even why bother trying. If you actually play as you level Warfronts and you just twink your character, Rift PvP experience should be around 7 out of 10. But that's just a random queuing casual experience. But if you want to do anything more than that, then the experience will actually drop down to like 4.5. Believe it or not, it's not. I don't think at this point Rift is actually worth getting max level and playing at the max level. Just simple as that. Phew. Guild Wars 2, my friends. Guild Wars 2 is awesome. I think that the first when the game came out, it was a pile of doo-doo, but they actually got much better. The Warfront, and there's no arenas again, unfortunately, I have no idea why. But themselves, the war zones, the Warfronts, the battlegrounds, whatever you could call them, design is solid. I would say 6.5 out of 10. It's not as bad as Skyforge, it's pretty mediocrely, nothing that stands out there, to be honest, just like WildStar. I think WildStar is actually have a little bit better design than actually in freaking, it's pretty much the same thing over and over and over again in Guild Wars 2, and that is kind of just annoying. Like here control the node, here control the node, here control the node, and good thing that they actually got rid from what I understand a lot of bunker builds. The overall combat feel in Guild Wars 2 is awesome, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't like it personally. I think for me it's just, that's something I don't like. Maybe for me it's just too fast paced. I cannot put my finger around it. Maybe because I'm not really familiar with a lot of classes and there's no absolutely like really good MMR system to the point where I can be placed against the noobs and slowly kind of relearn a game back. There's no such thing. So with that said, the barriers for PvP in Guild Wars 2 are non-existent. You get the max gear, you get the max level, you are awesome, you're good to go. and that's the great concept. That's awesome what they did. But overall, I think the Guild Wars 2 is not just my cup of tea. Me personally, I think the playstyle and my feel for Guild Wars 2 is roughly about 5.5, 6 out of 10. But that's me personally. From actually average, like from the player who likes that kind of fast-paced environment, who likes the combat of the Guild Wars 2, which is actually not bad. It's just not something I enjoy. I would easily put the infrastructure, the rated PvP, the support from for the PvP community, and how far they came for PvP perspective and PvP performance. I would rate Guild Wars 2 a solid 8 out of 10 experience. If you like the combat. If you don't like the combat, then it drops down to 5.5, 6. So, Blade and Soul. I'm not gonna discuss it until I try the game. Heard a lot of good hypes about it. So is the Black Deserts, but I'm not gonna touch them yet. What I do wanna touch is good old World of Warcraft. So, with World of Warcraft, Battlegrounds designs are solid. WildStar solid. Maybe WildStar has a little bit better design in that regards. But overall, the Battlegrounds in WoW are fucking awesome. Good design. Again, not mostly Zerg versus Zerg. You have to split up in the groups and everything else. It's not like stupid Ashran for that matter too. So Battlegrounds are designed pretty good. The class design, you know my thoughts about it. They had it good. They had it better, they had it worse, they have it shit now. The class design in WoW with the 3-button warrior rotations or 4-button warrior rotations is really, really bad. Now that's the thing, like I don't understand how WoW had everything going good for them. A great PP designs for Arena. Arenas are greatly designed. Great PP support. People actually, like there's a lot of people queue Arenas and they fucking enjoy it. And they were fucking like pioneers in that market. And then just the idea of the class design fucked everything up. So from the perspective of a new player for World of Warcraft, where they never saw how good the World of Warcraft was, I think World of Warcraft PvP wise is a great experience. 7.5. Maybe 7, depending on which class you play. Maybe 5, depending on which class you play. But overall, it's a decently good, solid experience. However, for the veteran players like myself and like most of my viewers, WoW is a bad design in current state. And I know that people like WoW dropped to 5.4 million subscribers, and a lot of people say, well, it's because a lot of new games came out. No, it's Worlds of Draenor's pretty shitty expansion. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, there was a Warhammer that came out and chunked 2 million of subs from WoW. Not only from WoW, but they sold 2 million subs. It's equivalent of the freaking Guild Wars 2 success. Warhammer Online. And then there was a Vanguard, there was EverQuest. There were a couple good old school games as well. Lineage 2 was actually pretty popular back in the day as well. And guess what? People enjoyed it. When Wrath of the Lich King came out, it swept everything off because it was a really great expansion. And it maintained 10 million subs for the entire year. Hence, going more of a hardcore friendly than a casual friendly is actually a better success for the game. So with that said, WoW experience itself varies from the player experience itself. But what I say from the class design perspective, if I was a new player and I would have, and I do pretty much have access to every single MMO out there right now for free to play, and WoW charges the obscene amount of money for their game. With that said is, while WoW is the most popular game out there, it's not the best game experience. So what WoW needs to do is what they actually are doing in the next expansion. Introduce more class complexity, introduce more design choices, more choices for the players, how they want to play their class differences, and most importantly, provide a solid PvP balancing for the stats and everything else. So right now, I think what I would rate from PvP XP perspective, player experience, and I started playing since Wrath of the Lich King. I would put Wrath of the Lich King PvP experience at 8.5. Well, actually not 8.5. I would say 7.5. 7.5. It was a great PvP experience. Relatively balanced. multiple comps, almost every single class could run. Um, the biggest best season in WoW, which was the most balanced season in WoW, was actually season 7. In season 7, I understand TSG was one of the most dominant comps, one of more dominant comps was out there, and it got nerfed in season 8. But in season 7, there were no overpowered trinkets compared to season 8. In season 8, there's a lot of overpowered caster trinkets that came out that skewed the design, skewed the balance towards the casters to the point where when you watch the tournament for last season of Wrath of Lich King, it literally was LSD versus LSD. Versus LSD versus LSD. Like, other comps just got shit on by LSDs. On the other hand, season 7 in Wrath of Lich King was one of the best ones. So that one I would actually name 8. Every single class had a very good solid representation and a level of competitiveness for actually tournaments. Now coming to the Cataclysm, I think Cataclysm was a very, very bad PvP expansion in general. And I would rank it about 5.5 out of 10. Why? The first season, season 9, was Death Knights. Frost Death Knights were ridiculously overpowered. Then the season 10 got fucked up. They literally reset every single MMR without resetting arena ladders, to the point where one of my DKs at 2500 got Gladiator. The other DK couldn't even touch 2600. Like, the highest rated person after the MMR wipe was like, could actually barely touch 2400. And basically what happened is that in like a lot of people got to 2500 rating, and then they instantaneously, after reset, nobody could get there. So it literally was a really, really bad design choice. After season 10, in season 11, you saw nothing but absolute rogues. Warriors were the worst possible situation, and what you're looking at that perspective is with the rogues having legendary daggers and an extremely overpowered trinket that procs damage, to the point where the rated battlegrounds had a lot of trinkets like a Shadow Valley trinket. The PvP experience was really, really bad. So with that said, yeah, Cataclysm was 6.5 out of 10. Mists of Pandaria was actually, in the beginning, was bad. I would say, well, if Cataclysm was 5.5, 6 out of 10, I think Mists of Pandaria first season was actually still 6.5. Still better than Cataclysm. Why? Because no matter what, you still could actually push high ratings of your class. The later seasons of Mists of Pandaria were fucking unbelievably good. Every single class had a viability. Every single class can run something. You can run a stupid comp, but if you had skills, you could actually pull it off. And then that's when I actually would put it at 7.5 out of 10. But then when it comes to Worlds of Draenor came up, because there was so much ability prone to the point where there were no really defining characteristic, that there were no skill dependent, and there was a limit to how far can each individual spec could go, it completely ruined PvP experiences. And this is the first expansion where I'm not actually playing the game the most. I just played it for like a month or two. So with that said, I would say Worlds of Draenor is 4 out of 10 experience for PvP. And that's it, guys. This was a long ass fucking video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll be probably leveling my sorcerer in Star Wars and streaming it and playing some WildStar. Thank you guys for watching. And do svidaniya, my friends.